Welcome in, my friends, to another episode of Fantasy Football Picks and Bets presented by PrizePicks. I'm your girl, Stepmom Lauren, and we have a really good show planned for you today. We have the Week 1 Prize Pick leaderboard from our 7-Eleven challenge, which is going to be kind of fun to go over those. And you get to take a little peek at Pat Mayo's over-unders as well as my over-unders and see how we fared in Week 1. We also have some injuries that we need to talk about. Boo, hiss, that's never fun. But we also have some waiver wire targets that you should be looking at if in case you do have some injury issues or just in case you want to make some changes to your squad. That's totally acceptable too. And we also have some streaming options at defense and quarterback that you guys should be looking to target. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into our Prize Picks leaderboard. This is going to be kind of fun. All right, so first of all, I just have one question to ask for everyone who did their over-unders. I'm guessing you didn't hear the episode or see any news that there was an automatic, obvious answer here with Patrick Mahomes only hitting half a yard. Yeah, all you had to do was hit the over on that, and then at least you would have got one correct. But nay, we had many people actually hit 0 out of 5, which I think is kind of funny, but that's okay. You know, this is about having fun. You do get prizes for coming in dead last. And I'll just name some of those few people here. Alan C., Matthew M., Pierre F., Dale, oh man, Brandon, Rick, James, Paul, John, Sean, what were you doing, man? That's all right, though. Can't win them all. I 100% get that. But let's shout out those people who got all 5 out of 5. There are a lot of them, so I'm just going to go through a few names I'm going to handpick here right off the bat. Jeff G., congratulations, 5 out of 5. And by the way, those payouts should be coming to you shortly. So keep your eyeballs open and ready to receive your winnings, which is very exciting. Tim B is another one. Jennifer, Brian, Brett, Alan, Silas, Donald, Neil, Albert, Blair. So many of you, well done. And unfortunately, myself, good old stepmom Lauren over here, and Pat Mayo and I, we did not fare as well as you 5 out of 5 folks. Nay, no, we didn't. But we did get 4 out of 5, which is pretty good. So let's take a look at what Pat Mayo did. And likely, because I actually started this guy in my redraft fantasy football leagues, and he disappointed me. So if you picked him for your over-under like Pat did, he likely disappointed you as well. And this player would be Ryan Tannehill. That's right. His line was set at 200. If I can read, I swear. I don't do math, but I can read numbers sometimes. 245 and a half passing yards. My goodness. And he snagged the over on that. I would have as well if I had picked Ryan Tannehill. Unfortunately, that one did not go according to plan. However, he did get Robbie Anderson on the over at 50 and a half, which I loved. I was actually thinking about doing that one too. Well done. Mike Davis as well for the over at 43 and a half, although what happened to the Falcons, I have no idea. Corey Davis, this was a smash play for me, but this was the over at 53 and a half. And also the obvious one here, like I mentioned at the beginning of this show, the obvious answer was Patrick Mahomes set at only 1/2 of a yard passing. So that's kind of an automatic gimme. So he got 4 out of 5. Let's take a look at my lineup because I got 4 out of 5 as well. And the one player that really didn't do it for me, which I was blown away, was Damian Harris. I had him set, I should say, at the over at 1/2 of a touchdown. All he had to do was score a touchdown. And without Cam Newton starting, I thought that was going to be obvious. I thought it was going to be a no-brainer. And apparently I was wrong, sadly. But Damian Harris did have quite a good game. But I did take the over on Zach Wilson, which was not on the yardage, but I did go on the interceptions because he is a rookie. So I took the over on 1/2 of an interception. I ended up getting that one correct, as we know. I also took the under on receiving yards for Eric Ebron. I don't have a lot of faith in him anyway. And I took the over on Josh Allen at 27 and a half rushing yards. That seemed pretty obvious to me as well. And then I did the gimme with Patrick Mahomes at over 1/2 a yard passing. So for everyone, if you happen to miss Week 1 on the 7-Eleven challenge, it's okay. You can still be a part of this super fun contest and you can still be eligible for prizes. Just head on over to prizepicks.com. If you have not signed up yet already, that's okay too. Use the promo code MMN and you will get your deposit of up to $100 matched. That's right, matched. So all you do in order to participate in the 7-Eleven challenge is pick 5 over-under players. Anything. There's all sorts of stuff that you can do for this when you are looking at this. I do the single stats. I went kind of trickery here, and I went with interceptions and touchdowns. Those are still eligible. I got 4 out of 5 right. You don't just have to stick with passing yards or receiving yards. There's some other options there for you. But 5 over-unders, and set that amount at $7.11. That is how they're going to keep track of these moving forward. All those people who just got that big fat zero, you are gunning for that $100, I think, for getting dead last. So good job? Question mark? But hey, this is fun. This is the joy of fantasy football. It is the joy that we are going to be feeling every single week for the rest of the season. I am incredibly excited. But what is not exciting is hopping in to the next segment of this show, which is a necessary evil that we have to do, and it's a good thing that I'm covering this before waivers. So let's jump right into our injury updates, and sadly, this is a player that I was extremely excited about coming into this year. It's Ryan Fitzpatrick, quarterback for the Washington football team. He suffered a hip subluxation. I don't know, subluxation. Basically, his hip popped out of the socket and then popped back in. Either way, it sounds very gross. But he is likely to miss about 8 weeks. That doesn't look great. And for everyone who is jumping onto the waiver wire, getting ready to pick up Cam Newton, don't do that. If you want to stash him, okay, but Ron Rivera has already made it very clear that he is perfectly happy with Taylor Heineke, who did pretty well filling in for Ryan Fitzpatrick after he got hurt. And they also have Kyle Allen as their backup there, and he's fine with that. So I understand the history between Cam Newton and Ron Rivera, but Ron Rivera very openly said that he is happy with his quarterback's room for now. So little premature if you're rushing out to grab Cam Newton. And then another one that was pretty devastating, Jerry Jeudy, wide receiver for the Denver Broncos, suffered a high ankle sprain. The good news is that the x-rays were negative, so it wasn't like a Dak Prescott type of injury because it looked really gruesome during the game. It was really bad. He is going to be placed on IR, and I've heard several reports from 4 to 6 weeks to 6 to 8 weeks. Either way, you're going to need to make some plans if you have Jerry Jeudy on your squad in order to move forward. Or even if you want to take advantage now of the uptick of other wide receivers on the Broncos because of this news, that's something that we're here for as well. But speedy recovery to both Ryan Fitzpatrick and Jerry Jeudy, but we're not done yet, everybody. Raheem Mostert. Yes, he gets hurt so often and it is devastating and I hate it, but he did it again. He went down. It was early in the game against the Lions, and he suffered a chip cartilage in his knee, which is not good. He's expected to miss 8 weeks. That stinks. Also, which was really strange about this game, is that Trey Lance was a healthy scratch. So moving forward, I don't think Trey Lance is going to be a healthy scratch for the rest of this season, at least while Raheem Mostert is out for at least 8 weeks. So that's something to keep your eye on. Also devastating. Another player I was really hoping to have a very good year this year is the Cowboys wide receiver Michael Gallup. He's in a contract year, so he really needed to come out and make some big waves, and he was on his way to do so. He had 7 targets and 4 receptions for 36 yards before he got hurt. So he was getting looks. He was getting targeted, which looked really good, and now he's on the IR with a calf strain. So that is looking at, I know it's a minimum of 3 weeks, and by the time you hear this, you may have more information about how long he's going to be out, but we're looking at a minimum of 3 to 4 weeks. So keep that in mind if Michael Gallup was someone that you were going to be relying on. Also, Tyrell Williams, a wide receiver for the Lions, is in concussion protocol. And Rashad Penny, running back for the Seattle Seahawks, he re-aggravated a calf injury, and he's expected to be out for a few weeks as well. So that is not good. Again, speedy recovery to all of those guys. You never like to see that. But yeah, that's kind of why we have the waiver wire, and that's why we have options that we can pick up to at least take advantage of this situation and give us a little bit of silver lining to some really, really bad news. So let's jump right into our waiver wire targets here. We have a lot to cover. I'm going to start first with wide receivers. Okay, speaking of this Jerry Jeudy news we talked about, Tim Patrick came kind of as a surprise to me. And it really seems like Teddy Bridgewater has a connection with him and likes him. He had 4 targets for 4 receptions for 39 yards and a touchdown. This does seem to be a little bit boom or bust to me, but this was also not including Jerry Jeudy being on the field. So there is a chance that he's going to see more targets. Either way, he was 100% catch rate, and one of them was in the end zone for a touchdown. I like that. He's only 1% rostered. He is going to face Jacksonville. So I think he could do pretty well against Jacksonville. The Houston Texans just made the Jacksonville Jaguars look like fools. And then after that, they have the New York Jets, another opportunity for Tim Patrick to do well. And then they have a tougher defense in the Baltimore Ravens. But for at least the next 2 weeks, you know that Tim Patrick is going to have a pretty decent schedule. And that is going to lead me into the quarterback streamer, which I will get into later. So just remember Tim Patrick, wide receiver for the Denver Broncos, rostered 1%. And next one, another surprise. I'm very sorry. Michael Pittman, managers. It was Zach Pascal. Zach Pascal. I don't know how to say his name. I think it's Pascal. We'll call him Zach P. I don't know. Zach Pascal. We'll go with that one. He is about 2% rostered. And it was supposed to be the Michael Pittman show. I 100% get that. And last week, I reminded everybody when we talked about our streamer section that Zach Pascal and Paris Campbell were still on the field. And it was Zach Pascal who came down with 2 touchdowns. That it's nuts. Carson Wentz obviously has an affinity for targeting Zach Pascal. Even if it's just going to be in the red zone, who cares? You know that he is going to be seeing some looks when it counts for fantasy. The only problem I have with Zach Pascal is I don't love his schedule moving forward. He does play the Rams. At home, I get it, but it's still the Rams. Ugh, that's going to be tough. Then they face Tennessee at Tennessee, and they also face the Dolphins at Miami. However, I still think that he has the opportunity to be fantasy productive. So if you need someone to fill in at a wide receiver position, I think Zach Pascal could be pretty dominant if he can continue that chemistry with Carson Wentz. And then speaking of dominance, Kyler Murray by yourself, holy cow. But he finally connected with Christian Kirk. They go way back with their history. And Christian Kirk is only 8% rostered. He had 100% catch rate on 5 targets for 70 yards and count them 2 touchdowns. I feel like I said that a lot over Sunday. There were a lot of players that scored multiple touchdowns, which was really great for the Cardinals. Their offense is just explosive. So I know that rookie Rondale Moore is kind of the shiny new toy there, and everybody's talking about him, but really this was Christian Kirk. Now, do I think it's going to be Christian Kirk for the entire rest of the season? I don't know if it will. I think Rondale Moore will get his feet underneath him, but until that time comes, I think that Christian Kirk might be that guy to pick up if you want to have someone to plug in. Might be a little bit more of a desperation play, but Christian Kirk is definitely, should be available at only 8% roster. They will face Minnesota, then Jacksonville, great game for him, and then they face the LA Rams. So that's not so great either, but the schedule is decent. And then if you want to go ahead and get Rondale Moore because of that Jacksonville matchup, he is 23% rostered. Definitely more than Christian Kirk. I kind of would lean Christian Kirk for the short term, and then I would go Rondale Moore if you want to stash for the long term. Speculative ad for me, but he is out there. Again, long term, I might go more. Short term, I would go Christian Kirk. And then another player that I have really liked in the preseason, and I'm really happy with how he produced, was Gabriel Davis, wide receiver for the Buffalo Bills. He is only 10% rostered. He had 2 receptions on 5 targets for 40 yards and a touchdown. Now, I understand that's only 2 receptions. That's not super awesome, but what I'm focusing on here are the targets. He had 5 targets. So if he can be a little bit more reliable catching the football, he should see a little bit more volume. And the Bills just didn't look like themselves. They didn't have that Buffalo Bill magical Josh Allen behind them when facing the Steelers. It just wasn't the same kind of team. I think that will change. So I think that Gabriel Davis is only going to get better. Again, this slightly boomer bust for me, but I did like to see those 5 targets, and he did find the end zone. They're going to face Miami, Washington, and Houston. So his schedule is decent. It's not awesome, but it's also not horrible. And yeah, at the targets, I don't know why. I just can't get past those. Remember, still boomer bust, but there's something about Gabriel Davis that I really like, and I might lean to try to snag him up. But before I want to get any of those guys, I'm going to save my favorite one for last. That's going to be Sterling Shepard. He is 31% rostered. He is the security blanket wide receiver for the New York Giants. And even though Daniel Jones was having an okay game, he did fumble. It was like meh, really nothing to write home about. Sterling Shepard was in fuego. He had 9 targets, 7 receptions for 113 yards and a touchdown. Daniel Jones was looking his way over and over and over again, and I do not think that is going to change. They are going to face Washington and then Atlanta. That should be a wonderful game for him. And then New Orleans, which is going to be a little bit more tough. But I'm still okay rostering Sterling Shepard, even with a very tough schedule, because Daniel Jones is looking at him and looking at him often. Now, one thing I do want to mention to you are some notable players from week 1 that I'm staying away from. And the number 1 guy here is Van Jefferson. I know he had that huge play and touchdown on Sunday night with Matthew Stafford's first game as a Ram. It was beautiful and glorious. No, I am staying away from Van Jefferson. I understand he's only 2% rostered. It might be very, very intriguing. If you want to pick him up, I won't get mad at you for it. But there's too many mouths there. Way too many mouths to feed. Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods are my guys. He is going to be the epitome of boom or bust and not consistent or reliable. So I would stay away from Van Jefferson unless you're in really, really deep leagues. The same is true for Terrace Marshall. I've seen him trending on getting rostered, probably more as a speculative ad, but I'm just not sure how this is going to go down. I like DJ Moore. I like Robbie Anderson, and I would rather have those options instead. So I'm going to avoid wasting fab money or waiver priorities on either Van Jefferson or Terrace Marshall Jr., just so you know. So let's move right along in here and get to our running backs that could be available. And as I mentioned before, the situation with Raheem Mostert is no bueno, and then Trey Lance was a healthy scratch. And then out of this, shocking, Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers have an incredibly monstrous running back in Elijah Mitchell. Elijah Michel. That's not his name. I'm kidding. I'm just being very dramatic. Elijah Mitchell. It's actually kind of fun to say. He is only 4% rostered, and this was a very much that helps no one type of situation here with the 49ers. But it could help us next week because we know that Raheem Mostert is going to miss right around 8 weeks. And he was the primary beneficiary of Trey Lance being inactive and Raheem Mostert getting hurt, and he took advantage of it in a big way. He had 19 carries for over 100 yards rushing and a touchdown. And they're going to be facing Philadelphia, Green Bay, and Seattle. I like that schedule for Elijah Mitchell. I would spend a lot of fab money to get him because of this extended injury, because of the way Kyle Shanahan likes to use all of his running backs. Elijah Mitchell really proved himself. Now, Kyle Shanahan is known for pulling Shanahan. So if you don't trust it, I don't blame you. But for some reason, that eyeball test just really secured it in for me that I think Elijah Mitchell is going to have a pretty decent, at least next few weeks, if not next 8 weeks, which I really, really like. So then moving on to still kind of a committee backfield here with the Eagles is Kenneth Gainwell. He is 6% rostered. And once I heard head coach Nick Sirianni refer to Kenneth Gainwell as Kenny, I kind of was clued in that he might really like Kenny Gainwell, and that ended up proving to be true. He had a touchdown on 9 carries, only 37 yards, which wasn't huge, but remember, this is week 1, and Jalen Hurts does a lot of running himself, and Miles Sanders had himself a great game. But he also had 3 targets and 2 receptions. I know that's not huge. I know that's really not much to write home about, but it still adds a little bit of versatility, and it adds a little bit more fantasy points to that bottom line score for you if you're looking for an intriguing flex play in Kenny Gainwell. He's kind of taken over that Boston Scott role, which I loved Boston Scott. He had some really big games, so adding Kenny Gainwell from the Philadelphia Eagles might be a good look for you at only 6% rostered. They're going to face San Francisco, then Dallas, and then Kansas City. So also a schedule that's pretty decent. I wouldn't mind taking a shot on Kenny Gainwell at all. And the last running back I'm going to bring up may or may not be rostered. I would double check. He's at 33%, still a little little low, but you never know if you're in deeper leagues. But I do want to admit that this surprised me. I don't want to say I'd written off James White because that's kind of a strong phrase, if you will, but I was so focused on Damian Harris that I kind of neglected to really look deeper into this running back room. And you know what? I'm kind of sad that I did, but you can still take advantage of picking up someone like James White because Mac Jones, who played great in his NFL debut, looked his way. He had 7 targets, 6 receptions, and 49 yards. Very easily could one week, that one of those turns into a touchdown in the red zone because Mac Jones he has that kind of veteran poise behind him already. And James White is a veteran and he knows what he's doing. He only had 4 carries for 12 yards, but that's really not where James White makes his bread and butter. It is in the passing game. So that is incredibly intriguing for me in PPR scoring formats. And their schedule is that next week they play the Jets, which I do like. And then they have a little bit tougher schedule there with New Orleans and Tampa Bay. But still having James White, if you need a running back, if you need someone, especially in PPR, you're looking for a flex, see if James White is available at 33%. I think for me, my favorite out of all 3 of these running backs is got to be Elijah Mitchell. Maybe I'm falling for it. Maybe I'm being silly, but he's the one I would be targeting here if you really need a running back. And 2 notable running backs that I am avoiding, just like we did with the wide receivers, it's Carlos Hyde. I have no idea what is going on in Jacksonville. I was incredibly upset with James Robinson. That was super stinky. And I think people are going to be going after him, and I don't like that. I'm staying away from it. And another one is Mark Ingram. I know he had a huge game. I get it. But David Johnson is still there. Phillip Lindsay is still there. This was just one game, and that did not tell me enough for me to want to spend fab and a waiver priority on a backfield that I'm not entirely sure what's going to happen week to week. So even though Mark Ingram had a great game, I think maybe next week might be David Johnson. Maybe it's a Phillip Lindsay game. I'm not sure. So those are 2 running backs that I'm not so sold on. But I am sold on Elijah Mitchell. Go get him. And then last but not least, let's go ahead and jump into our tight ends, which kind of leads me into talking about how fantastic Jameis Winston was. And I know I'm such an idiot. I left him on my bench because I wasn't convinced. Shame on me. That will not happen again. But with the Saints, Juwan Johnson, who was formerly a wide receiver, and at least in Yahoo, he's still listed as a wide receiver and a tight end. He is only 6% rostered, but I tell you what, Jameis Winston really likes him. He only had 3 targets, but he did also have 3 receptions for 21 yards and 2 touchdowns. That means that Jameis Winston is looking for him in the red zone, in the end zone. He is that target. I love that. Again, this is going to be a little bit more boom or bust when there's not a ton of volume there, but I think once that chemistry keeps getting better and better, don't forget Michael Thomas is still not on the field. So Jameis Winston is going to be looking for people that he has that chemistry and rapport that he's built with already, and I think Juwan Johnson is just the man for the job. Again, 6% roster. They will face Carolina, they will face New England, and then they'll face the Giants. So I really do like that game against the Giants there, and I believe week 4. And just as a caveat here, in case you were curious, he scored 15.6 fantasy points, which is absolutely ridiculous considering he's only 6% rostered. Absolutely nuts. So another actually former Saint and a tight end. Let's go to Jared Cook, 26% rostered. I don't know why this Donald Parham experiment isn't working. Oh, here's my surprised face. I'm saying that incredibly sarcastically, but Jared Cook is the guy right now. He had 8 targets, which was awesome. He did not score a touchdown, but I think that's just a matter of time. And the Chargers offense is looking better and better. I absolutely love what they bring to the table, and I really love what Justin Herbert can do. So get Jared Cook. If you guys need help at tight end, you at least know that you have the opportunity for him to see the end zone, which I really like about Jared Cook. And they are facing Dallas, Kansas City, and then the Las Vegas Raiders. And another name that was kind of surprising, I should have seen it coming, but again, didn't really pay too much attention, is Dalton Schultz. 1% rostered. He is with the Dallas Cowboys. Blake Jarwin was the big news from last year, but unfortunately, after he had his season-ending injury, it was Dalton Schultz who stepped up to the plate, and Dak Prescott seems to like targeting him. He did, 6 times. That's right. I was trying to find my notes here. He was targeted 6 times, and he caught all 6 of those, so that's a 100% catch rate for 45 yards. With CeeDee Lamb there and with Amari Cooper there, It scares me. However, with Michael Gallup now being on IR, maybe there is a possibility here for Dalton Schultz. So if you want to take a shot on him, I don't hate it. And if you're in deeper leagues, see if you can grab him, because at least he's going to be a body that's going to see some targets and maybe see some of those targets in the end zone for some extra points for you at the dumpster fire that is the tight end position. And I will bring up Gerald Everett. Oh, Gerald Everett and Cole Kmet are two that I'm going to bring up. And I kind of want to put them in my maybe I won't target them, but they're so enticing that I can't help myself. So let's start with Gerald Everett, tight end for the Seahawks, getting reunited with some coaching staff. He is 38% rostered, so a little bit more than we had from our other two. I've been pounding the ground for Gerald Everett, and I'm glad he didn't make me look like a total fool, because he scored a touchdown, but he only had 2 targets, and that is a little scary. So I was hoping he'd get a little bit more involved, but it was the Tyler Lockett show. Then it was the DK Metcalf show. So I guess I'm not surprised, but I am a little nervous. But if you do need a tight end and those other guys aren't available, Gerald Everett is an option, because you know Russell Wilson will look for him in the end zone. So that is one. I was so excited about him, and then he only got 2 receptions, and then the excitement went all the way back up when one of them was a touchdown, and then I was like, do I really want to trust this? Where is my Pepto-Bismol? Oh, it's kind of one of those deals if you're going to start Gerald Everett. But sometimes that's what makes fantasy football a lot of fun. So they're going to face Tennessee, Minnesota, and San Francisco over the next 3 weeks. And Cole Kmet, as I mentioned, another one, is on my list here at 34% rostered. And the reason I wanted to stay away was because there's so many question marks regarding Andy Dalton, or is it going to be Justin Fields, or is it going to be both? I just don't know. So I kind of wanted to stay away, but then again, he saw 7 targets. He was like a security blanket Sterling Shepard kind of person there for Andy Dalton. So I wonder if the next couple weeks, while it is Andy Dalton until at least week 4 when they face the Lions and they'll start Justin Fields, wink, wink, because that's what I think is going to happen. If you are desperate for this position, you could get points out of him, because right there we're looking at a minimum of over 7 points if you play in a full PPR. Oh, God. Actually, was it 7? I can't remember how much he got. All I wrote down here was 7 targets, but he's getting the looks, which is great. They're going to play Cincinnati. That's a great matchup. They're going to play Cleveland. Decent matchup. And then they're going to play Detroit. Awesome matchup. So he is with the Bears. That's why it was a little scary. I don't love it, but that does not mean that you shouldn't pick him up if you believe in him. Again, 34% roster. That is Cole Kmet. And on the quarterback side here, not a streaming option, but a pick up and start every single week option, which I'm sure everyone is going to have a claim in for this guy if they don't have him on their bench already, and that is Jameis Winston. He is 44% rostered. He's under the 50% mark, so if you can get your mitts on him and you need a quarterback, he just might be your guy. And it surprises me because Aaron Rodgers was on the other side of the ball, and he very uncharacteristically threw 2 interceptions when he only threw 5 last season. And it was Jameis Winston, who's the famous 30 for 30, who did not have an interception at all. Actually, I mean, technically he didn't. He did have one, but it was called back because of a penalty, but that still means it was 0 in the books, which is pretty great. He looked poised. He looked a lot more mature than he has in the past, and I think his time under Sean Payton has been very well spent. So I believe in Jameis Winston. See if you can get him, especially if you're in need of a quarterback. But speaking of quarterbacks, and if you are streaming the position and you cannot get your hands on Jameis Winston, look no further than Teddy Bridgewater going up against Jacksonville. That's right. So in our streaming defenses video, I had mentioned that Houston might be a good stream for defenses and special teams because they're going up against Trevor Lawrence, rookie, also new head coach, and Urban Meyer, and it didn't disappoint. And this is kind of the same thing I'm doing here with Teddy Bridgewater going up against Jacksonville's horrendous defense. Okay, so when we're looking at Jacksonville, they literally made Tyrod Taylor look like Tom Brady. Okay, that is an over-exaggeration. I'm really sorry. I got my defenses confused. But yeah, he did. He looked really good. And like Tyrod Taylor is good, but he's not like super duper great. And they made him look very good. And he did very well in fantasy. I think Teddy Bridgewater can do the same against Jacksonville. Now, one thing that Teddy Bridgewater did on his own without facing Jacksonville is he put 264 passing yards up, 2 passing touchdowns on the Giants. This is kind of a similar situation. So I expect Teddy Bridgewater to do at least that or even better against the Jacksonville Jaguars, who were atrocious on both sides of the ball. And if you're streaming defenses, Arizona continues to impress me, not only on offense, but also on defense. They held Derrick Henry. That's not easy to do. They stuffed him at the goal line thrice. On one drive. It was crazy. They did an absolutely great job. Chandler Jones, you're gunning for the MVP, man. I see you. I really like this. They're going to be facing the Vikings. Don't forget, the Vikings lost to the Bengals in overtime. So another team here that might be a little bit more on the risky side, excuse me, I swear I speak English, risky side, is going to be the Green Bay Packers. Now, hear me out. They're playing the Lions, and they need a really big get-right game on both sides of the ball there, not only for offense and Aaron Rodgers, but defense also needs to make a statement. So if you're desperate and you need a defense or a special teams, Arizona's gone. I get it. Look no further. Get the Green Bay Packers. Take some stomach medicine. Maybe hold your nose and maybe don't watch that particular game because it might be scary. But again, it's against the Lions. And when you're playing against the Lions, your offense and your defense should have a pretty good outing. So that is it for me for our streamers, our waivers, our injury, our PrizePicks leaderboard for week 1. Thank you so much for tuning in. Remember, if you have not signed up for PrizePicks yet, go ahead and do that now. Use the promo code MMN. You get your deposit of up to $100 matched. And maybe next week when I record this video for week 2, I will be able to speak English that time. So I'm sorry y'all had to listen to me muddle through that like I'm tongue-tied and but just to be honest, my eyeballs are kind of bleeding and my brain's coming out of my head. Yesterday was crazy. Week 1 was insane. So take advantage of all of that action. Sign up for PrizePicks. Pick your over-under. Go ahead and get in on that 7-Eleven challenge. Your 5 over-unders for only $7.11. I am Lauren Carpenter. You can find me at Stepmom Lauren, and you'll see me throughout the week. I'll be in your ear holes and seen by your eyeballs at least a few times, but good luck on your waiver pickups, and good luck in week 2.